A weapon so fast it can outrun defense systems was just tested under a secretive regime's watchful eye, and almost no one saw it coming. That's not an exaggeration. That's the reality we're facing right now. On January 4th, 2026, North Korea announced it had test-fired advanced hypersonic missiles. This moment marks a major escalation in military technology, in a region already teetering on the edge, and it raises urgent questions about the future of global security. Today, we're going to lay out what happened, why it matters, and the shockwaves this development is already sending around the world. So, what exactly happened? Let's get to the facts. On January 4th, North Korean state media reported that leader Kim Jong Un personally oversaw the test firing of hypersonic missiles as part of a large military drill. These missiles reportedly flew about 1,000 kilometers or 620 miles over the sea to the east of the Korean peninsula. Officially, North Korea called it a test to evaluate its readiness and strengthen its nuclear deterrent capability. They pointed to what they described as a recent geopolitical crisis as their justification for ramping up weapons development. This was North Korea's first missile test of 2026, and it definitely wasn't just a routine check. It came at a moment of rising international tension, and its timing was highly symbolic. Now you might be wondering, what exactly is a hypersonic missile? In real terms, these are not your typical rockets. Hypersonic missiles travel at speeds greater than 5 times the speed of sound, or Mach 5. That's so fast that traditional radar systems have a very difficult time tracking them. But speed isn't their only advantage. They can also maneuver mid-flight, unlike older ballistic missiles that follow a predictable arc through the sky. They are specifically designed to evade the missile defense systems deployed by the United States, South Korea, and Japan. Being both incredibly fast and unpredictable makes them far more dangerous than most conventional missile threats. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a fundamental shift in military capability. So, what is North Korea saying about this? According to their official state media, the Korean Central News Agency, the goals of the test were to assess military operational readiness, improve the combat skills of their missile troops, validate the effectiveness of their deterrent forces, and quoting them directly, continuously upgrade military means, especially offensive weapon systems. Their state media described these weapons as cutting-edge hypersonic systems that give Pyongyang an advantage over defensive shields. Put simply, North Korea claims this is all about defense. But the speed, the timing, and the technology itself tell a different and far more complicated story. Let's talk about that timing because it is crucial. This test did not happen in a vacuum. It occurred just hours before the South Korean president was scheduled for a state visit to China, diplomatic trip being watched closely in capitals all over the world. Furthermore, Pyongyang's announcement came just after it condemned a recent U.S. operation in Venezuela and made direct references to international geopolitical tensions, explicitly tying this weapons test to broader global events. This isn't accidental timing. It's very deliberate political signaling. To really understand the threat, we need to compare this new technology to older systems. Traditional ballistic missiles follow a predictable high-arching path. Defense systems track that path and calculate where to send an interceptor to shoot it down. Hypersonic weapons completely change that game. They move much faster than older systems, and they can alter their trajectory while in flight, making them incredibly unpredictable. This drastically reduces the time defenders have to react and allows the missile to slip through gaps in radar coverage. This means that even the best defense systems, whether they're American, South Korean, or Japanese, are suddenly up against a weapon that shrinks the reaction window from hours down to just minutes or even seconds. That alone is a geopolitical game changer. So what are the experts watching for now? Defense analysts have pointed out several key elements that are critical. These missiles appear to be part of the Hwasong-16B hypersonic family, a system North Korea has been developing for years. The nature of this test, a large-scale military drill, suggests that the weapon is moving from the development phase into operational deployment. And perhaps most importantly, if the use of solid fuel technology is confirmed, it would mean these weapons can be stored in a ready-to-launch state. This makes them much harder to detect and destroy before they are fired. This isn't just about testing anymore. These are practical preparations for real military use. As you can imagine, while North Korea celebrated the test, its neighbors reacted with serious concern. South Korea and Japan immediately called the launches provocative and pointed out that these tests violate multiple UN Security Council resolutions that forbid North Korea from developing ballistic missile technology. Interestingly, Seoul's military also publicly questioned some of the details in North Korea's claims, suggesting that not all of the reported performance metrics of these missiles could be independently verified by outside observers. Even North Korea's traditional allies, like China, are watching this very closely. Knowing that any shift in the regional military balance directly affects their own strategic interests, it's clear this is a strategic signal, not just a simple test. North Korea doesn't test its most advanced weapons randomly. Experts see this as a multi-layered message. To its own citizens, it's a show of strength and self-reliance. To the United States, it's a signal that it can challenge and potentially defeat American missile defenses. To South Korea and Japan, it's a powerful demonstration of its military capability and deterrent power. And to China, it's a reminder of North Korea's own strategic value and independence. This is high-stakes geopolitical chess being played with very real weapons. So, what does this mean for global security? So far in 2026, this launch is one of the most consequential weapons tests anywhere in the world. It has huge implications. It could force a massive and expensive upgrade of missile defense systems. It could reshape regional alliances and diplomatic strategies. It will almost certainly accelerate hypersonic weapons programs in other countries, fueling a new kind of arms race. And it challenges the very foundations of deterrence theory. Traditional models may no longer apply when one side has a weapon that is this fast and this unpredictable. What used to be future weapons talked about in think tanks are now real, tested, and operationally practiced. Let's look at the big picture and where the world stands now. North Korea's hypersonic test is not an isolated event. It fits into a broader network of global developments. We see other major nations investing heavily in their own hypersonic technology. We see rising tensions between military alliances, and we are witnessing a modern arms race where speed, maneuverability, and surprise matter more than ever before. Every major defense strategy in the world today must now answer the question: can we defend against weapons that don't follow the expected patterns? And right now, the honest answer is not with much confidence. To quickly summarize what we've discussed, North Korea has tested hypersonic missiles under Kim Jong Un's supervision. These missiles flew roughly 1,000 kilometers and are being framed as part of its military deterrent. These weapons represent a breakthrough in speed and evasive capability. Regional powers and global alliances are watching with extreme concern. The implications of this test stretch far beyond the Korean Peninsula to missile defense, geopolitics, and the very nature of future warfare. When North Korea announced it had successfully tested a hypersonic missile, it wasn't just another weapons update. It was a clear signal that we've entered a brand new and much more dangerous chapter in military history. These missiles are unlike anything we've seen before. They fly at speeds faster than 5 times the sound of sound and are specifically designed to outsmart the modern defenses that are supposed to protect our cities, military bases, and even entire aircraft carrier groups. Let me put this into perspective. Traditional ballistic missiles travel in high, predictable arcs. Once they're launched, our missile defense radars can calculate their path, track them, and send interceptors to take them out long before they hit their target. But hypersonic weapons completely shatter that defense system. They fly much lower, staying within the atmosphere, and can maneuver unpredictably. Instead of following a fixed curve, some hug the Earth's surface, making them practically invisible to radar until the very last moments. As one defense analyst put it, this combination of a low flight path and extreme speed gives defenders almost no time to react, sometimes just a few seconds. That isn't just an improvement, it's a complete game changer. So, what exactly makes these hypersonic missiles so difficult to stop? Let's break down the science behind this incredible threat into 3 key facts. First, there's the extreme speed. Hypersonic weapons travel faster than Mach 5, which means they can reach targets thousands of miles away in minutes, not hours. At that kind of pace, even our most advanced sensors and radars have to react almost instantaneously. Second is their mid-flight maneuverability. Unlike old-school ballistic missiles that fly in a straight, predictable line, hypersonics can twist, turn, and dive during their flight. This makes tracking them a nightmare. Defense systems rely on predicting where a missile will be next, but these weapons simply don't follow the rules. And third, they create radar blind spots. By flying low in the atmosphere, below the horizon of most long-range radars, they can stay hidden until it's far too late. By the time a radar finally locks onto a hypersonic weapon heading toward your city, the threat could already be upon you. That's the terrifying reality we're facing. You might be thinking that only a handful of superpowers could build these weapons, and you wouldn't be far off. Developing hypersonic technology is incredibly expensive and technologically demanding. It requires advanced materials that can withstand the enormous heat generated at such high speeds, incredibly sophisticated guidance systems, and breakthrough propulsion technologies that were unheard of just a decade ago. This is why we see major global players like the United States, Russia, China, India, and now even North Korea pouring billions into these programs. Whoever masters hypersonics gains a massive strategic advantage. The logic is simple. First, offense now outpaces defense. As of today, no existing missile defense system in the world is fully capable of stopping a true hypersonic attack. Second, it's about deterrence. Countries want to have an edge against potential adversaries who might also possess advanced missile technology. And third, it's a matter of prestige and power projection. Having hypersonic capabilities sends a powerful message about a nation's technological might and its influence on the world stage. So when you hear about another hypersonic missile test, understand that it's not just a test, another move in a high-stakes global arms race. Of course, the United States and its allies are not just sitting back and watching this happen. They are actively developing new radar systems and interception technologies to counter the hypersonic threat. For example, the U.S. Missile Defense Agency has already deployed upgraded radar systems capable of tracking high-speed targets with greater accuracy and at longer ranges. This is crucial for getting that all-important early warning. Additionally, there are cooperative defense projects underway between the U.S. and its allies. Japan, for instance, is working on developing its own interceptors, aiming to create layered defenses that could one day challenge hypersonic weapons. But for now, these are mostly works in progress, and the defense is still playing catch-up to a threat that is already here. Regionally, the reactions have been swift and strong. Japan and South Korea condemned North Korea's missile tests, stating they violate United Nations Security Council resolutions and destabilize the entire region. Japan's defense officials have explicitly warned that these capabilities pose a serious and direct threat to their nation's security, requiring them to enhance their readiness. Meanwhile, NATO allies have also acknowledged the growing hypersonic threat, which is not just limited to East Asia. Russia has already deployed hypersonic systems like the reshaping missile to Belarus, expanding its reach into Europe. Even the United Kingdom has publicly voiced concerns that Russia's hypersonic arsenal could threaten its Navy's major warships if left unchallenged. This makes it clear, hypersonics are not a regional problem. They are actively shaping global defense policy everywhere. And here's where the story gets even more dramatic. Hypersonic missiles don't just change the technology of warfare, they fundamentally change the timing, the strategy, and the level of risk. First, they shrink the decision window for world leaders. In the past, if a missile launch was detected, leaders had hours to make a decision. Should we intercept, warn our allies, prepare a response, or try to de-escalate through diplomacy? With hypersonics, that window shrinks to mere minutes or even seconds. This drastically increases the chance of a panicked decision, a miscalculation, or an accidental escalation into a full-blown war. Then there's the problem of warhead ambiguity. Hypersonic weapons can carry either conventional or nuclear payloads, and it's impossible to tell which one is on its way. In a crisis, if a nation detects an incoming hypersonic attack, how do they know if it's a conventional strike or a nuclear one? This uncertainty forces nations to assume the worst-case scenario, dramatically raising the chances of a catastrophic retaliatory strike. Finally, the strategic balance is shifting. Simply possessing hypersonic weapons acts as a powerful deterrent. It might discourage an attack, but it also gives the owner a much riskier and more powerful lever in international relations. This is a complete paradigm shift in how nations think about war and peace. While North Korea's recent tests are grabbing headlines, they are just one part of a much larger global trend. Russia has already integrated hypersonic systems into its combat forces in Europe and has even used some in the conflict in Ukraine. China is developing multiple hypersonic platforms with advanced stealth and maneuverability. The United States and India are investing heavily in both offensive and defensive hypersonic technologies. What we're witnessing is a worldwide race where hypersonic weapons are becoming central to national defense strategies for every major power. This isn't just a theoretical or technical issue for military planners. This has real-world consequences that matter to everyone. It impacts international diplomacy, as nations now have to adjust treaties and negotiations to account for weapons that can strike almost anywhere in minutes. It affects civilian safety, because our cities' power grids and infrastructure are no longer safe behind traditional defenses. It has an impact on economic stability, as countries are forced to divert billions of dollars into defense spending that could have been used for public services. And it's reshaping the global balance of power, forcing countries to join new alliances or risk being isolated and vulnerable. Now, more than ever, the lives of ordinary citizens are directly tied to the strategic decisions being made in military command centers behind closed doors. So, where do we go from here? We are at a critical crossroads. On one hand, we see a surge in defensive innovation. New radar networks, AI-driven tracking systems, and advanced satellite surveillance are all being fast-tracked to try and catch up to the hypersonic challenge. Artificial intelligence is now being used to predict the unpredictable flight paths of these missiles, which could enable defenses to react faster and more accurately. Some experts believe that the sheer danger of these weapons might push nations to negotiate new treaties to limit their deployment, similar to the nuclear arms control treaties of the Cold War, simply because the risk of miscalculation is too high for anyone to bear. But on the other hand, we could be on the verge of a dangerous new arms race that makes the world a far more unstable place. The big question for our generation is this: will the rise of hypersonic weapons accelerate a global conflict? Or will the immense risk they pose force nations back to the negotiating table? The answer will define the future of global security for decades to come. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown informative, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the critical issues shaping our world. Stay informed and stay safe.